Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to No Question About That. I'm a very croaky Ed. I'm with Wayne today, and we're on the whistle talking about Liverpool 2, Manchester United 2, and that was a performance and millimetres and a composed finish away from being a famous Harry Maguire win at Anfield. Wayne, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Am I delighted? Am I frustrated? It's just another day in the annals of watching the schizophrenic Manchester United, and we can constrict it to the Ruben Amorim reign, or we can expand it over the last 12, 13 years that United have this tendency to pull out good results. I mean, 1980s quintessential Manchester United all over again, and you watch it. I'm in a good mood, Ed. I'm in a really good mood with the performance and the result. I know we'll get into pick the bones of it and why it's frustrating, but right now I feel very good, and I feel like we probably, we could say we deserve to win, but I'm quite happy with the draw and the performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't seen I guess VAR didn't check it, so we're unsure whether Josh Zirkzee was onside or offside. It's one of those ones where different angles will tell you something else right at the end of the game, and then the pass back to Harry Maguire is not awesome. It's bobbling and he skies it over. A confident Josh Zirkzee takes that on. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered. Who knows? But it's one of those big what ifs. But overall, I think we can say that this is, a not a statement performance, because a statement performance would be going to Anfield and winning comfortably, but a very encouraging one, given that all that has happened in the past 8 weeks or so under Ruben Amorim. I mean, the pundits were completely disrespectful before the game. I mean, maybe United fans were completely disrespectful before the game of United as well, and predicting cricket scores and all of that. And United fought for it all over the pitch. Bruno Fernandes, a real captain's performance. He put in the most interceptions, the most tackles, the most take-ons, and the most chances created in the game. So best defender, best attacker, absolutely everything from him. But I think that's kind of reflected throughout the team. A lot of togetherness, a lot of work rate, a lot of defending as a team, which you have to do at Anfield under this Liverpool side. But also created a fair number of very good chances as well. So a lot to be feeling very positive and very happy about, even if we didn't get the win.
Yeah, I'm with you on Bruno. Funnily enough, I think Mainu and Ugarte were even better than him. The numbers will obviously back up Bruno. I think he was excellent. I'm not saying that he wasn't. It was a great performance from him today. Great leader's performance as well. But I thought Mainu and Ugarte in midfield were just absolutely sensational, especially after the first 15 minutes. Mainu was brilliant, but Ugarte's footwork to get out of at least 3 situations, the strength to get out of them were just incredible. All the way through, Amorim made good choices, even bringing on Garnacho and Zirkzee. I think they both contributed well when they came on. Even bringing off Mainu, because I was concerned about that because it played well. And going right to the start with that lineup that he picked, I've expressed doubts on this podcast many times about this, especially, and I was doing it live from my unfortunate position in the North Stand of the Newcastle game, because I was in tier 2 for that one, and unfortunately got to see that back 5 playing as a back 5 quite often, and so the personnel doesn't help you with that, and it's not a system that is set to play at home. You need you need more adventurous players in that system. However, for these kind of games, like I'm pretty sure that's the same five that played at City, right? It's the same five that played that back five at City. So for these kind of games, it actually works quite well. The one concern that I have, and it didn't work. It's a concern that wasn't founded at City, and it wasn't founded today. So maybe I need to get over that. But maybe it's just a natural fear. Is that because of the 5-man defense, you feel that United historically haven't been as clinical as they need to be in the chats. Bruno can be quite wasteful, and Kobe and Regate in particular aren't really renowned as expressive midfielders. So then you want Oyland to be clinical, Ahmad, who always is, and then the left-sided forward, whoever he may be on the day. So you're asking a lot from players who don't normally play like that, but they have played like that at City and today. And so the concern that I have over the system, I still feel is valid on a week-to-week basis, but I feel for the big games, the only issue is, we said it about Van Gaal tactically. He did very well in most of the big games. We've said it about Ollie. And really, Ten Hag, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes he got it right. So the thing what is more promising about Amorim is that when we went to City, it was difficult to know because City were underperforming at the time. Liverpool aren't. They're playing very well. And all right, they didn't play very well today. But I feel that that's a credit to Amorim. Now, all right, sample size is not very great in terms of like, it doesn't. We can all be happy that we've got a draw against Liverpool and we beat City away. And who knows what might happen at Arsenal now. We're feeling a lot more optimistic about that. Obviously, the bread and butter of the getting battered to Forest at home, getting battered to Newcastle, Bournemouth at home, all those kind of things, they're of equal or not greater concern as they have been for the majority of the 10 years. However, the most pleasing thing from City and from today is that it wasn't a team, despite 5 men in defence, it wasn't a team that said we are going to sit and shut up shop. We're going to play adventurous. We're going to try and win this game of football. And at City, they deserve to win. Today, I think Xerxes was offside, but I still feel we deserve to win. I feel like there was a mad 5 minutes after the goal. So you don't win all the games that you deserve to win. And I really feel all the decisions he made, all of them, were spot on. Even bringing Xerxes on, which was a big call after what happened against Newcastle. And yeah, I mean, the final point from this little part of the ramble is that I feel of all the concern of all the recent weeks, in the big games, we've gone to the big grounds and we have been proactive and tried to win the game. And we've looked very good trying to do that. And we were today.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's right. United carried the ball out of defence really well, played the ball out of defence well as well, although it was interesting that they went to a slightly longer goal kick in the second half in particular, to a small tactical tweak there to try and bypass the midfield. But for the most part, they weren't super defensive. So, yes, when they needed to defend, they were 5 at the back with 2 sitting in front. They did manage to break on Liverpool, especially in that first half. Actually, some really good breaks. Ahmad, Højlund, I guess. But it was pleasing that we weren't deep all of the time and did manage to... The field tilt for this one is 55-45, as in the possession Liverpool you expect to dominate, but which was like 2 points in Liverpool's favour. But what they're doing with that possession was not indicative of United being under huge amounts of pressure all of the time. Some pressure, you'd expect that from a very good Liverpool side, but United were able to get into good positions and were probably more of a threat on the break than I thought they might be, with very little pace in the side. As frustrating as he is, Diego Dallo did a lot of ball carrying today. He took United out of pressure frequently. United were good in those small, tight spaces in taking the ball out, weren't just punting it all of the time. I mean, some of that, for sure. So all round, the kind of performance you would expect or hope for from a United side at this stage of the development, and don't get very often, right? And as you pointed to, you want that kind of spirit, tactical awareness, composure, quality on the ball all of the time. But for the details, you actually could have won this. The chance at the end for Harry Maguire, offside or not, managed to fashion that chance. the goals that we gave away. One is an excellent break from Liverpool with some, I'd say, exposing De Ligt's weakness in the channel.
Although I think Ugarte, Neville pointed it out in his commentary, Ugarte gone too rash too early. So he left De Ligt. I'm with you on that, but I think Ugarte left him as well.
Left him exposed, but
Yeah.
it's why I much prefer De Ligt in the centre. So one from Maguire or De Ligt in the centre, and then Lenny Yoro right-sided central defender, because he's great, as we saw with that fantastic challenge at the end. He's great in those spaces, whereas it's De Ligt's weakness. And then a penalty. So penalties are most often too big a punishment for the crime, right? It's a 0.8 or 80% chance of scoring over thousands and tens of thousands of penalties. And most of the time, you basically have to be on the goal line to have an 80% chance of scoring otherwise, right? So it's much too big a punishment for the crime.
Yeah.
And almost always with a handball, unless you're Luis Suarez in the semi-final of the World Cup handling it off the line, it's too big a punishment, and that's very true. So the bigger point I was making there is that, but for the details, United could have got an even better result today, because the game plan was pretty much perfect and executed it very, very well for the most part. And they exploited, I'll let you speak, they exploited Liverpool's biggest weakness, which is in the right back slot, which is vacated all of the time. And it's amazing how, to borrow an expression from my American friends, how much Trent Alexander-Arnold is graded on a curve, right? He plays a nice pass with generational talent, but he's a fucking right back.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't do it at all and can't be bothered.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get all social media blue tick about this, but if that was Marcus Rashford not doing his defensive work, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I'll let you speak, but overall, big picture, I thought was fantastic, and but for the details, could have been even better.
No, I'm with you on that. I feel like I was being way critical on Dalot in the first half. There are things that he does, obviously, that frustrate us, because I've got to be cautious with the way that, or conscious at least, the way that I talk about this, because I don't like the climate at the moment. Because I said a couple of weeks ago that I don't like digging out players when they're obviously not good enough, and I think Dalot and Maguire are in that category. But when I say not good enough, I mean a Manchester United team qualifying for either the Champions League on a regular basis or competing for the title. Now, so if I'm being critical of Dalot and I say, like, all right, a couple of times, for example, one moment, and maybe this is too harsh, but there was a moment in the first half where we were attacking, a couple of really good attacking moves, and Dalot got caught in a position where he kind of went, I'll try for that 30-yarder that he often tries, and he wasn't on, but he went to sort of like fashion his body for it anyway, and he got caught in a position where we got turned over and he was nowhere near where he needed to be. Now, I mean, yeah, maybe I'm being a bit critical there, because the passion is kind of like, like we all like, so we all like that in the United team. Like, we like to see that unpredictability. That's what that is. However, I think he's too rash sometimes. Having said that, all what you just said in terms of the praise of him, he was opening up, he was carrying the ball. Most of his decision making on the ball was completely sensible. It was integral to the way that we're opening up on that left hand side. He dealt with Salah in the main very well. Salah had a decent game as well. He wasn't completely pocketed. I did worry when he got the yellow card. His temperament was brilliant. And even when we broke Garnacho on, my problem is, and I don't know why Garnacho did this, the joy that we were having was getting behind the fullback. And as soon as Garnacho, and I think he has this, maybe it's in response to the criticism, he's come off social media this week, hasn't he? So he's obviously feeling that criticism. And I think like he tries to prove too much the things that are the weaknesses in his game, because I don't think he's a great player in front of defenders. However, that's what the equaliser came from, and I've got to praise his character for that as well. Overall as well, not just that, the character of the entire team, because going 2-1 down in those circumstances, Anfield got his atmosphere up going. There were 2 goals in a quick turnaround. You could definitely say that.
Pretty rare atmosphere, we should say, before we start praising Anfield atmosphere.
Oh, and it wasn't great throughout, by the way. I'm talking about the 5 minutes around the goal, which obviously was going to inflate that moment. I think United did well to calm that down afterwards as well, because I think they got a bit anxious after, which is strange considering they'll run away with the league this season without question still, unfortunately. That's me trying to jinx them. But the response that we showed in a nervy 5-minute spell when you could say, all right, well, defensive error from a couple of players that left, you could say Gakpo did well as well. Another defensive error, again, you can say there's an injustice in there for it to be checked. Those kind of things always made me a bit dubious on VAR, because you've got, like you said, he's looking straight at it. So you basically telling him to overturn it, even though he's had a clear view of it, which I think is not what VAR's meant for, really. I don't think it is. Anyway, the point I'm making is the reaction to that, particularly considering the criticism that United have had in these last few weeks, particularly considering the lineup that he chose, and because he could have easily sort of mixed it up quite a lot, but what he did was he just brought back the missing players. He said, no, I'll stick with that five-man defence. So he could have easily bottled those kind of things, but he didn't. So the reaction that we showed was in keeping with the general theme of what he's been talking about. And I know that sounds like a strange thing to say when we've seen such a terrible run of results and performances, like bottom of the barrel results and performances. But you can't watch that and not have conviction in what he's saying, because then you're like, yeah, all right, I see what you're saying now, and the justification is there in the performance and the result.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go through each of the goals in detail, because I know we're like getting straight into the kind of immediate reaction to it, but also just a few data pointers to kind of point out how well United performed here. And these are from Mark Stats, who does the bot on Twitter. I mean, obviously, Liverpool's XG is higher. They had a penalty, so you'd expect that. It's expected threat almost identical. As I mentioned, field tilt and possession, no massive difference between them. Defensive action height within a meter of each other. So United pushed up. Average defensive action height is 42 meters. They really pushed up. They tried to compress the game. They were brave with their defending against the very good Liverpool side. 11 shots inside the penalty box for United. More deep entries into Liverpool's final third than Liverpool had.
11 shots inside the box. That's
11
impressive.
shots.
That's really good.
And four high turnovers and almost exactly the same passes per defensive action. It's like, how many passes do you allow the opposition to have before you challenge them? Right. So this is a United side that's pressing better, defending higher up the pitch, and creating turnovers as a result, and had a lot of good attacking moments that we haven't seen in many of these games, right? So when I say the game plan worked almost perfectly, I think that's proven out in the data and with our eyes, because it's also an important metric.
Yeah.
And of course, we scored 2 goals. And then just to go through each of the goals, because I thought that'd be kind of like interesting to point out like the strengths and weaknesses that we see from United. So first goal, which I'm completely forgetting right now.
Martinez.
Lisandro Giggsy Martinez.
Yeah, wow.
Lashing one over the keeper. And what a moment from him as well, because he finally gets the wall pass, doesn't he? And it's the reverse pass from Bruno. Sorry. Reverse pass, not the wall pass. It was absolutely brilliant from Bruno, because he's looking one way, plays it the other.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of moment and that kind of chance creation, which is exactly why Bruno is still the most important player in this side. I can't even engage with people on social media who are like, get rid. I like, what are you watching here? Because it's not football. I mean, there's almost nobody in world football who creates more chances than Bruno and can play that pass, create out of nothing, and a brilliant finish.
Yeah, it was outstanding. I was barking at one moment because he stayed up, Martinez. I'm like, no, get back, be compact. But no, he stayed up, and the finish was, Giggs-esque. It was beautiful in the white kit as well, towards that side when you're watching on the screen. All of it, the aesthetics were bang on, exactly like it. But he's a 5'6" centre off in terrible form. But he played very well today, and just beautiful. I mean, the pass, everything about it was beautiful. It was just a great, well-worked goal. The time is a thing that we have been critical about United in the past. It is a theme that runs through managers, unfortunately. In big games, they've not often taken control in the moment when they were in control. And they did. That was that moment, and it was brilliant. And the celebrations around it. I mean, yeah, look, you're going to get that with Martinez as well. It was just a nice moment. But we've had some cleverly taken goals from centre-halves in the past. I mean, Bill Foulkes in the semi-final of the European Cup, which I think John Aston said that it's the only time we ever saw Bill Foulkes side-foot a ball against Real Madrid, which is really a nice goal if you watch it. Obviously, importance in terms of poetic and romance with the club. Martin Buchan once scored a 40-yard screamer in the 70s, I think, against Everton. Rio Ferdinand once joked that he scored goal of the season against Liverpool there was left foot curler in the top corner.
Right.
That's up there. It's a beautifully taken goal, isn't it? It's a really nice strike as well. Anyone on the pitch scoring that, you wanted Højlund to show that kind of conviction in the first half, really.
Yeah. Højlund's a very efficient finisher, but that miss in the first half is pretty disappointing because it's neither the dink nor the lash.
Yeah.
Martinez made the right decision to go with the lash high from that angle. Very difficult to save. I mean, if you were critical of the keeper, he falls down too quickly, but it's because he's not expecting it to take on the low percentage shot. That's exactly what he did. We've talked about it briefly already. Gakpo's goal. I mean, it's a brilliant finish, and he's obviously having a moment this season, Cody Gakpo, because I'm not sure that everyone thought he would be this higher quality player. I mean, there was the time then United under Erik ten Hag were linked with him. I don't know how real that was or not. I mean, it seemed pretty real, although he is a Dutch player. So,
yeah,
of course.
We ended up with Vegas because we didn't have any money. So.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there are only 20 million Dutch people or whatever it is. So, and I think we were linked with all of them. Being a potential
got most of them.
Yeah, got most of them.
Yeah.
Got most of them. Yeah, I mean, the critique of Ugarte not getting across quickly, I mean, it's a churlish one, isn't it? Because he appears to be all over the pitch all of the time. I mean, the defensive side of his game is 9.5 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. I'm not
the attacking side is definitely not that, but I mean, man, the ball he played late in the game to turn defense into attack. I don't know. The co-coms on NBC over here was Graham Lasso, who said it was a mishit. I was like, what are you talking about?
No.
Graham Lasso could wish he could mishit a ball that good. Anyway, but to get back to the point, I mean, De Ligt, he goes down expecting the cross. He's a bit too early, but if he'd blocked a cross at that point, you'd say brilliant defending. There was a moment in the second half where Virgil van Dijk does that to Dalot, who tries to cross it, and you're like, do the Ronaldo jink back inside, and you've got an open goal. Yeah. So you can praise the attacker for sure for his agility, and I think you can criticize De Ligt for compensating for his lack of agility by going to ground too quickly, which is his weakness in those channels. I mean, I think it's just true, which is why he's much better in the center. So there's bits to pick at. I don't think Lenny Yoro dives in like that.
Maybe not. I still feel like it's a little bit too harsh on De Ligt, and maybe not the criticism there for Ugarte, but what I mean is like maybe someone else, because he is laid out quite bare there.
Yeah,
you have just cleared a corner. So my point is that I think that maybe in that moment, this is just, I think, part of the thing that we love about football is that there's an emotional reaction to scoring a goal. So you've just scored a goal, you're up, you want to be in their faces. So maybe that explains Ugarte getting out there quicker, and he was having such a good game as well. So I'm not criticizing him. I'm not really criticizing De Ligt. Yeah, all right, it's a weakness of getting turned, but it's a good turn, it's a good finish. So sometimes you just have to say, yeah, good goal.
That's fair. Criticism of the action or discussion of the action is fine. I mean, it's not like you're saying,
of course, yeah.
He does this every week and he can't give a fuck and he's out partying all the time. And by the way, let's talk about his clothes and his hair and whatever nonsense and his family and all the other shit that goes along with criticizing, quote unquote, Manchester United players these days. So The penalty, I mean, the VAR age, it goes to the ref and the ref thinks, oh, that's too close to him, right? And Michael Oliver, for all his, let's say a conflict of interest, because there is one, right? It's just straight up, he gets paid by the same people who own Manchester City, because that league is centrally organised and owned. And go check the org charts if you don't believe me on that one, right? So for all that criticism, he is a decent referee. I do think he likes a moment. He found a reason to find a penalty against De Ligt at West Ham, didn't he? He was the VAR that day.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that was dreadful. This
one is marginal. I mean, we got one that was even more marginal in Paris, you remember, where it's just brushed the outside pinky and we got a penalty and we weren't complaining. So I suppose if it was the other way round, to be charitable and fair, we would have been saying, of course there's a penalty. His arm, so it's not in a natural position. Yeah, clearly up there in a freeze frame, it's not in a natural position. On VAR replay, it's almost always going to be given, that one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I'm with you. He's very much depends on we supporting, really, that one. I seem to remember there was one a few years ago. We played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge and Carrick had his arms up by his side.
I remember the one, yeah.
But it was the kind of penalty that isn't given, but started to be given because of that. And this is like one of those. I just think Oliver did referee the game very well. There were a lot of tackles from both sides that he let go, and a lot of
not Harry Maguire's, where he got 100% of the ball.
Yeah,
which
was
the game.
horrendous. But I mean, there were a couple like Dallo, I think, deserved the yellow, and Nunes, who went into, was it De Ligt? He went into
De Ligt off the ball, not looking at the ball, only looking at the man, arm raised.
And by the way, that's when you look at him doing it, there's nothing in the acts that says red card, but the intent is red card. It's absolutely shocking what you're doing. It's shameful because you don't know the intent of how that player is going to challenge for the ball. So if you've basically just made yourself a block, a physical block, you are actually saying, I'm trying to close on to that player. So really, he's looking at De Ligt's honest in his intent for the ball. Anyway, the point is, I still feel like Oliver got that right. I just think Nunes was a bit naughty with that. But what I'm saying is, in the flow of the game, Oliver got those calls right.
Most of the time.
In the flow of the game, apart from the Maguire one. So in the flow of the game, I think what happened there was like there's a lot of, honestly, maybe even the VAR got caught up in that because it was such an active few minutes of football that you kind of think like, oh, everything's happening and you want the tension to be ramped higher. And sometimes I think that's what happens from the outside participants, which is what VAR are. They're looking at that and like, we've seen it before. The West Ham game, and I'm glad that you brought that to attention, is the perfect example of that because it was never a penalty in a million years, but it was the product. That's all that was. It was the product. And you know that you are creating the narrative of a manager could lose a sack, and he did. I'm not saying he deserved anything like that, but that's what happened in that moment. So in this moment, yeah, all right, I'm not going to complain too much about it because his hands up, and I would be appealing for that if that was the thing. But in the moment when it happened, he saw that happen.
I was
his observation of that was he's too close to him, and I think sometimes, like I said earlier, I don't think that's what VAR was brought in for. It's meant to be brought in for things that the referee misses. That's my understanding.
It's a minor. Well, it was. Yeah, it was to correct the. I think FIFA's numbers are something like referees get it right 93% of the time. This is taking it up to 96%. It's a point or two either side of that, right? So that's what it was brought in for the marginal cases where they get it wrong, not to invent or find fouls where there wasn't one. It's a minor point about VAR, but I do think it does the referees a disservice when they only show the freeze frame and the super slow-mo on these things. Because in real time, his arm comes up because he's twisting and turning. It's in an unnatural position. So I actually don't have a complaint that it's given in the end as such, because I think if you look at the way the handball rule is now written and interpreted, that's always going to be given. My complaint is twofold with how the handball law is written and interpreted, and two, how VAR then presents it to the referee in those circumstances, because he said, oh, you should look at this. when you show a freeze frame, it touches the hand. Oh yeah, contextless is what it is.
Yeah.
And in real time, I don't know how he moves out. Well, you can go, and which is what people will say on social media. Oh, you shouldn't put your hand up then, mate. I mean, fine. Like, let's tie everyone's hands behind their back and we'll play the game like that. Or only armless people can play the game. Like, is the hand in an unnatural? They don't mean unnatural, because moving your arms while you're jumping or moving is perfectly fucking natural. What they mean is, outside of the silhouette where you're standing, you stand with your hands beside you. That's all right. Newcastle scored a goal the other night where he's shouldered it. Apparently that was all right.
Yeah, I didn't see that at the time, and then I saw it on the highlights after, well, lowlights after, and I tweeted about that, saying, all right, we deserve to be beaten like 4 or 5. I'm not really grumbling about that. But how was that one being given as someone? Well, it came off it was fine. It came off his shoulder. I'm like, okay, that's not how it looked to me.
Yeah. But that's the thing that infuriates supporters, isn't it? It's the Romero one where it's not given, but this one is. It's the De Ligt one when it's come off his leg and he's invented a new part of the handball, or right there in the moment, Michael Oliver. It's Michael Oliver completely inventing, and I'm sorry, I'm going outside of handball here, just to moan for the 1900th time about this one. He's invented a new foul on Dalot where he's punished him twice for the same thing, to send him off. It's that kind of inconsistency that's infuriating. And of course, you got that in the old days when the referees just had to referee. And Michael Oliver, I think, in the spirit of the game, where you say that ball is going nowhere and De Ligt's just jumping and turning and is hitting from 2 yards away. In the spirit of the game, Michael Oliver's seen that and gone, yeah, no foul. In the super slow-mo freeze frame world of VAR, he's found a way to give a foul. It's frustrating, infuriating, but probably correct as it's interpreted and written today. So anyway.
And if we got one in that circumstance, we'd be saying, well done, Michael.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well done, Michael, with your bags of Abu Dhabi cash. I mean, honestly, I know we poke fun of this. There's no way he should be ever refereeing a Manchester United game. It's just no way.
Besides, I used to say this about Mike Dean, even though he said that he was a Tranmere fan, but it was obvious. He got removed from the Liverpool West Ham 2006 FA Cup final for those concerns. From that moment on, he should never have been allowed to officiate a United game, and he officiated too many. One of them was the Chelsea game where Darren Can gave Drogba offside, even though it was in the mega stuff. So yeah, I know. I'm over it, guys. I'm over it. It was just 15 years ago, But yeah, I'm with you. I like people say that. I interviewed Harry Redknapp a few years ago, and he said, rather mischievously, he says, I live in Bournemouth. I've lived in Bournemouth a long time, and I used to see when I was younger kids going around with Man United shirts, and I wondered how many of them grew up to be referees. I'm like, well, I don't know, Harry. I don't know what the sort of concentration is for top flight officials from the Bournemouth area. Maybe they are all Manchester United fans. I don't think there are that many. But it's an interesting point that he made, because I think Clayton Blackmore also said something about one of the, I can't remember which referee, but on the declaration, they have to sign a declaration that says what team they support. And there was one referee who deliberately didn't put that he was a Leeds fan, even though he was a Leeds fan, and they all knew that he was a Leeds. All the players knew that he was a Leeds fan because he went to Leeds games. But he put on his form that he was like Harrogate Town or something like that, and he was able to officiate United games and wind the United players up. So I mean, it goes on. But you're quite right. I think when he's so overt and he's carrying little swipe bags with dollar signs on for when he gets off the plane, I think it's a bit too much. And I think I'm with you on that one. I don't think Liverpool would like that either, right? Because I mean, all right, he's given them the decision today, but if he's got City leaning, you wouldn't want him officiating your games.
And I'm not suggesting he's a Manchester City fan. It's just it's a conflict. It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. I mean, I understand that referees, they are paid a fraction of what the players are, right? They're not the stars here. And in the old days, old days, they weren't professional at all, and they were headmasters and police officers and all of that kind of stuff, and they did it in their spare time. Now they are professional. I understand why the top ones might want to cash in on opportunities like refereeing games abroad and that kind of stuff. But in a very globalized game where the majority of the Premier League is owned by people from other countries, including states that might also have a stake in their national league as well, then perhaps that shouldn't be allowed. Just saying. The optics and all that. All right. Talking of optics, how much did you enjoy the sight of Amad Diallo? I mean, man, he likes a big game goal, doesn't he? Scoring an equaliser against Liverpool, 80th minute. I enjoyed it. My son, who was sat with me watching the game, but not really focused on it because he had second and third screens, as kids do these days, was shocked into life with me going mad at that one. Yeah. Loved it.
Spoiled a little bit because I was celebrating, but almost thinking, come on, Ahmad, this is the script for you to score again. Ahmad, I think I was more impressed with Garnacho until he did the pompous celebration, which don't really take that away from him. But he did the thing that I didn't expect him to do, Garnacho. Ahmad did the thing I expected him to do. He's clinical in that situation. He finished it beautifully. Not really a high percentage chance. He's in a good position to score, but he's got to think quickly and he's got to be very smart and cute with the finish, and he was. Garnacho's decision-making, considering all the criticism that I was saying about him earlier and general criticism that is around him, this sort of idea that, and United were playing in a way that he could probably have found that space behind the defenders, but he kept moving into positions to get up in front of them. And I don't do that. You've got something and they're all over the place here. But in fairness to him, he timed it well and he chose the right pass to make as well. Everything about it. Yeah, it was another, not as aesthetically beautiful as the Martinez goal, but very nice, very slick.
Yeah.
And really the kind of goal that we deserved and the performance that we played that kind of good football, and it was nice to see 2 goals scored like that. And yeah, I do want to make sure that I'm giving the appropriate praise to Garnacho in that, because
he's created the goal.
Yeah,
he deserves the praise. His decision making, it's not decision making in football. It's not all instinctive, right? They actually coach it, like what to do in the right kind of positions. And the Athletic reported this week that the reason why he was dropped from the City game is because he turned his back on Ruben Amorim when being given instruction coming on against Victoria Pilsen in the Europa League, right? Let's take Story Whitwell. He's a pretty good journalist. They double check everything. They do stand up with the second source, as I understand it. They're reporting, and so let's take that at face value. He isn't the most coachable player in the world, and he doesn't always make the best decisions. We think his talent has a very high ceiling because in the moments he does some brilliant things, both with goal scoring and in attacking areas. And there's just a little rough edges to file down, sand and polish. And we hope that he becomes that player, but he will only become that player if you drop some of the stupidity and apparently the arrogance as well. But in that moment, perfect thing to do.
Exactly.
Wide, cut it back in. Perfect thing to do.
This is the one that you use, tomorrow morning in the training ground. He said, well, this is what we want from you. And this is what you can do in those positions. Now, ironically enough, I'm saying that as something that I thought he was doing something I didn't think he should be doing, but then he did the thing that he doesn't often do after those.
Well, just before that, or was it just after, Lenny Yoro hit this crossfield pass, and United were on a break. They'd gone from left to right, worked it out of defence, and Lenny Yoro switched it again to Garnacho, who's right on the touchline, excellent position to break, and he's offside, right? And that's how can you do that? Because Liverpool get the ball back and go and attack at the other end, and that's the moment. I think it was after the equaliser, actually. That's the moment not only where United were in a great position to put pressure on Liverpool, but it turned around so quickly. And they are the best transition team in the league. They're the best attacking team in the league, Liverpool, but they're also the best transition team in the league. And we gave him an opportunity. And so that's a moment when he needs to do the most basic thing, which is stay onside and then carry the ball into the attacking third, which he's good at. And he didn't do it because he was lazy and didn't look where he was positioned relative to everyone else.
I won't say it. What I will say, again, the moment of like, we've just scored, I've got that little boost of arrogance and confidence about me. So maybe not lazy, maybe a little bit overconfident, or maybe just complacent in that moment. Which, I mean, yeah, it's interchangeable with lazy, really. It's not that far away from it.
Lazy is a very pejorative word. So let's say not fully focused on what he needed to be doing in that moment.
But I'd like to see that again, because I know the passage that you're talking about, and I thought he looked on. But yeah, the being cut off in those situations is not great. But these are, again, he's got two things that are what they could show him on a tape tomorrow and just said, this is what to do. This is what not to do. This is what we want to see more of. This is what we want to see less of. And you're quite right that he doesn't seem like he's a completely coachable player. But in the same way that you would have said that about Ronaldo, and again, it's just a comparison that's easy. And the ceilings are completely different. He's a completely different kind of player. But in the same way that you wouldn't have said Ronaldo was coachable, because sometimes he looks beyond that, he was coachable, and his demonstrable upturn came from listening to coaches on how to be more clinical with your decision making.
Yeah. Now, well, for all his arrogance, Ronaldo, he always wanted to be the best he could be, and it wasn't just manifesting it.
The difference is with United is then obviously you could have conviction in what the people above you were telling you because they had proven track records in creating world stars. It's difficult to say that with the talent of the management staff around, because they've not got, you know what I mean, we've not done very well. You know, Ollie was sacked, Rangnick was terrible for a short period of time in terms of the football. Yeah. Ten Hag obviously had the sort of faith of Garnacho for a little while, but then he drops him sometimes, and then Ten Hag is sacked himself. So you can understand a player having that ego. I'm not saying that I'm just saying I understand that a player gets an ego and the management's failing around him. You might be saying, well, I'm better than this. He's not better than this. All right, this is a different direction. It's a different coaching. But if he wants to succeed in this system, and if he wants to improve as a footballer, then economy is, and I've said this so many times, economy is the best thing that a player learns from the age of 18 to 22. Like, Ahmad's unbelievable that he's got that. That tells you that he's got a high ceiling. I didn't think he had that in him, but he's got the economy right. Garnacho doesn't. But kind of what we love about him is he tries the outrageous things. But if he does get the economy in his game, and he's a little bit more clinical with that, there's a hell of a player in there. Of course there is. And then you can disregard all those sort of things that I'm saying, I don't think he can do that. Because if he shows that he can against defences like the best, well, not the best defence because it was gaping holes there on the right-hand side, but generally the best defenders in the league, to create chances like that, then his improvement can be exponential. It really can.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a very poor environment for development for the last 10 years for United. I mean, for all the debate about Marcus Rashford, the thing that doesn't seem to be mentioned often enough is he's had 8 managers during his time at Manchester United. Some of them temporary, of course.
When we said development, by the way, top level. We're talking once you get into the first team, not like obviously the environment at youth team level and breaking in and that thing is all as good as it can possibly be, really.
It is right now, but it was abandoned for a while at youth level. Yeah. I mean, they just weren't focusing on it, and coaches and players left as a result. The former Manchester United players were sending their kids to Manchester City. Like, that's how bad it was for a while. I think that's turned around somewhat in the last 2 years. Nick Cox, who you know well, has done a fantastic and amazing job at United there. And they seem to, and now it's about the pathway. How do you get all these really talented kids into the team? It's a development environment in the first team that has been really poor for young players.
Exactly.
Even senior experienced players have failed at Manchester United, but young players, there's so few who've managed to come through and get to where we expected them to be. And Marcus is probably one of them, right? He is his ceiling, well, like his ceiling should be the 30 goals a season that he got that one season, or the 30 goals plus assists that he's got in, I think, 4, right? That should be where he's at every year, and he's not. Might be down to him, might be down to his lifestyle, might be down to the fact that he doesn't listen to coaches, or he's aloof, or whatever you want to, or he dresses, quote unquote, like a rapper, or all the other bollocks that goes around the game these days. But we want those very talented young players to make it to the top. Garnacho's one of them. Amad's one of them. We want the consistency of performances and the environment to come in. I see a lot of people talking about, well, let's just throw a bunch of those under 18s. Do you think this is the environment in which under 18s flourish? No fucking way. They sink. They have one bad game and then the world of social media is on them, right? So you get the coaching right, you get the environment right, you get the pathway right, which Sharon Fletcher is having a big say in at the moment, as will Jason Wilcox. And that you hope, like, generally speaking, the kids grow and learn and be the best they can be, especially right now where we've got Kobbie Mainoo, Alejandro Garnacho and Amad and Højlund, who could all hit a really high ceiling, and you hope they do, but there's no guarantee about it. And then you've got 5, 6 kids that you think they could really be top players in the under 18s and under 21s. Yeah, they play both at the moment that you really hope can come through. Wayne, go.
Yeah, I just want to make a point on, it was something that I sort of sailed away from earlier, as I tend to do. But you mentioned Kobbie, and it just brought me back onto that because I think he was so good today. So good. So good, like a 8.5, 9 out of 10 performance. I thought he was outstanding. I mentioned that we recovered well after that moment, after the penalty, and we showed we could have scored another one as well as the one that we did score. I think that on the balance, if you said there was going to be a winner, I think that we deserved that. And that's to do mostly with the reaction that we showed after the goal. I think that's a massive thing, because we've talked a lot about the character of this squad in different guises over the last 3 or 4 years, and we've talked about the personality of them and been quite cut in. I think we've been quite fair in saying that the personality of this squad isn't quite as unlikable as previous ones. I don't feel like they gave up on Ten Hag or anything like that. Interesting to know what the manager thinks was so wrong in what was so catastrophic, because they were catastrophic, the results and performances recently, to be so different from what worked against City and what worked today. I mean, there's the obvious thing, like it's a bigger game, bigger occasion, brings it out of the players. In the isolation of that 20-minute period after conceding the goal, and the way that they conceded, and the environment in which they conceded it, because they could have easily just thrown the toys out of the pram, like complain about their decision, lost 4-1, and we would have been here complaining about that penalty, and then saying, "Oh, that team reacts the way that we know they does." When you look at the way that they respond, and the players who came on as well, because in that environment, he still brought off Kobbie, and he still brought on Zirkzee and Garnacho, 2 players who've not been in there. They're not being brought on to see the game out. There were changes to try and win a game of football. I'd make a point as well, because I know you've talked about this on the pod, but I haven't had my say on it. There's a lot of, so it's one of the biggest things that's happened in recent times, is the visceral evisceration of Zirkzee after the substitution the other night. He was one of the worst. Let's put this in the context. So while we're saying the criticism was way over the top, it was still one of the worst Premier League performances from a United player. And in the way that you would say, it's difficult to see how he comes back. So first of all, credit to the manager for keeping him in the squad. For first of all, taking responsibility for it. Second of all, putting him in the squad today. Third of all, bringing him on. Incredible character of Zirkzee. I know, like you said, maybe on inform and in confidence, he might have done different things with different things, but I think he played quite well when he came on. He did quite well. He did at least as well as Højlund played. He carried on that continuation. And Garnacho. So what I'm trying to say really is the response of everyone in that 20-minute period, including the manager, when he made those critical substitutions, which were really brave substitutions, considering Garnacho's not being in the team and Zirkzee, such a bold call. I think everyone deserves credit for that. And in a way, more than the performance, more than the draw. That reaction is and I could see him. Honestly, give me another hour to wax lyrical about Kobbie Mainoo because he's been poor in the main this season. He was so good today that I kind of just want to bang that drum. And Agate, he was so good. And I feel I'm not as fair to Bruno as you are because I give you the space to wax lyrical about it. And I'm there like saying, I think he was the poorest of the three. And I don't mean that. I mean, the other two were outstanding, but Bruno was outstanding. I'm not giving him his due with that. So I'd like to sit here and talk about how brilliant they were. But then I want to also focus on that 20-minute spell because I think sometimes when you're looking at character and resilience and response, those are the things that you want to see. You want it to be seen like it's not a massive thing, right? Because it was a massive thing the other night. It was such a big moment. And because Manchester United is the biggest spectacle and spotlight in football, you cannot hide away from that moment. So what you actually want in reaction to that is you don't want like a mad reaction. You just want life as normal. So for those people, for those players, for the manager, for the players to make all the normal, sensible decisions, no overreaction, and to just get on with business as usual in response to perceived injustice in the way that they conceded that second goal, I just think that deserves a lot more. Maybe not like I'm saying, it's like an incredible sign of development, but it's such a promising thing to see. Is what I'm trying to say. When we've seen, we saw a team, United were playing quite well at Anfield a couple of years ago, and they went 1-0 down just before half time, and they went and conceded 6 in the second half because they just couldn't get their arse into gear. And it was never a 7-0 game. But we've also seen us lose by 4 a couple of times. Do you know what I mean? We've seen those bad reactions. So when we see a good reaction, I feel like, all right, I don't want to make a massive fuss out of it and say it was like, oh, we'll win a title now. But I think these incremental signs are the things that sometimes we can take for granted.
Didn't collapse, and we're in fact very positive in that last 20.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that Josh Zirkzee is cutting the ball back to Harry Maguire to sky one over when there's an open net in the 90th and something minute tells you United not only didn't collapse, but were there to try and attack the game and try and win it as well. So brave and had the right kind of mentality. And you're absolutely right to say that so often they've not had that. They have just collapsed when going goal down. The fact that they concede in bursts a lot or concede just after half time a lot. I didn't concede in bursts today. I did concede a couple of minutes after we scored, which is unfortunate. That's the other one you'd like to eliminate. But yeah, great spirit that last 20 minutes. I find it hard to draw too big a conclusion from that because the evidence before our eyes of the last 2 and a bit years is that we don't get.
You don't build on it. You don't build on it. Exactly. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm not. It's not like I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to take that last 20 minutes full of spirit and competitiveness and bravery, and we're going to go to Arsenal next weekend and win. To quote a former Liverpool player, I'd love it if we did it, but I'm not expecting it because that's not the evidence we've got. But you're right, the coaches, the video analysts can go, hey, hang on a minute, here are all the great things that you did in this game. A couple of moments that mean you didn't win it, but here's 20 examples of things you did great defensively, in transition, and in the attacking third. They were absolutely right today, and you got some just rewards in a very difficult period of time today that you can build on, hopefully.
Yeah, and maybe this is in the reaction to this result, which feels more positive, but I still feel like on the balance of like the last 6 games, if you would say, what do you expect to see next week? You probably expect to see something more economic, like we did against City and Liverpool than we've seen in the other games, because it's a bigger game. There's more time to prepare. You expect that system to look the same as it did today. So maybe, I'm not saying that we'll go there and we'll play well or win, but I feel like we'll be much better to watch and much more ambitious and much more cohesive than we've looked in the home games or the games against the lesser opponents.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. He's got a week, no midweek game which is there's still 7 games in January. I had in my mind that we had loads and loads of gaps, but still 7 games in January. But he's had almost a week between the Newcastle game and this game. He's got a week off between this one and Arsenal. Has more training time with the whole squad than he's had at any time in his period at the club Amorim. And so more time to drill into them, what he wants from them, what he expects. And maybe there were signs today of what he's trying to teach. We talk about coachability. Let's hope there's some players that can take it on board. He talked about leadership before this game. He was praising Harry Maguire and his leadership. But there were quite a few leaders today on the pitch, no less than Captain Bruno, who I thought was absolutely fantastic. But I'm just picking one out there of several players who really deserve the praise that they get for all the criticism that United players get. And it's a hell of a lot, and about 10x the amount of praise probably deserved in that ratio. But they deserve a lot of praise today for that performance. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe that's a natural conclusion. We'll be back during the week for the usual sort of discussion. There's so much Manchester United stuff that I was talking to my wife in the week. I was like, seems to be going down well. The fact that we upped the amount of pods we're doing, started with dailies on the YouTube channel, and then our Patreon backers, NQAT Pod on Patreon, if you want to support us, asked for the audio as well to be in their audio feed. So I started doing that, and I think generally a lot of positive reaction to doing that. So we're doing like 4 or 5 pods a week now, which is a hell of a lot of content. I was like, well, why don't we just do it every day? And the wife was like, your listeners will get really bored of you, won't they? I think they probably would. But there's always something to talk about with United. So we'll be back during the week. We'll do a preview pod of that Arsenal game as well at some point. In the meantime, you can find Wayne at Wayne S. Barton on all the socials. Plugging his upcoming book, which you can pre-order now.
Yes, thank you, Ed. Yes, I will be plugging for the foreseeable.
Good, as you should. Everyone should order it. I haven't ordered a copy. I will do that. You can find me on NQAT Pod on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Substack. nqatpod.substack.com. If you want to hear me pontificate for 1,500 words a week on something, I've got to pick a topic to write about. Thank you very much for listening or watching wherever you are. Have a great day.